What I'm about to talk about in this video, I hope doesn't get me cancelled. This is highly speculative. It's just a few coincidences lining up here regarding the whole Donald Trump thing and an entity in the world that we talk about a lot on this channel. We know how nefarious they are. We know there's lots of conspiracies around this, so this is very speculative in nature. I was watching Jesse on Fire. That's a YouTube channel who's grown like crazy in the last couple of days because he was speaking absolute sense on his streams. So go and follow Jesse on Fire. And of course, if Jesse on Fire is watching this, which is a very small chance of happening, I'd love to come on the channel, talk about how this is all intertwined with the financial system and cryptocurrency and blockchain, switching over systems, the Great Reset, all of that stuff. But if not, carry on with your amazing success, and you're doing a great job. Now I'm thinking about how to reveal this because it's quite insane. So I want to start with this entity that we talk about on this channel so much, and that is BlackRock. BlackRock, the asset managers, they hold over $10 trillion in assets, and even more than that in their kind of indirect holdings. It's almost up to $44 trillion that they're in charge of. These are assets around the world in the $40 trillion range. Okay, so this means like housing, businesses, anything that basically is in the world, BlackRock have their fingers in that pie. So you can imagine that if BlackRock don't agree with something or someone, it's reasonable to assume that things might be put into place or actions might be taken to protect that hold on the world. So for those of you who don't know, BlackRock is one of the largest asset management firms in the entire world. I mean, they have a massive stake, almost like majority shareholder stake in almost all industries and all the top companies in those industries. And that means they have considerable control and influence over the world's economic policies. Any decisions that have to be made in the world of money likely come over the desk of Larry Fink. And Larry Fink is the CEO of BlackRock. Now, because BlackRock have so much control over real estate and infrastructure projects, that is building roads and railway systems and anything that transports people or allows humans to move around the world, BlackRock are involved. They're also involved in the financial markets worldwide. And of course, when you have that much influence, the influence isn't just financial. It also becomes political. And actually, in a more like plain and simple way, like they actually advise governments and central banks on their economic policies. They actually advise them. Like that's a known thing. That's not a conspiracy. That's like part of their offering. They offer governments advice. And so I don't have to go into all the theories about agendas and stuff. We all understand this. Agendas and genders, I guess you could put it that way. But the way of the world is moving a specific way, and in that specific way, BlackRock are very happy with how it's going. It's serving them to this current point, right? They don't want anything to change. So in comes Trump, who actually is pushing towards this economic nationalism. And I'm going to tie this back in. Please bear with me. I know we're not usually political on this channel, but I'm bringing it back. Like you'll get it at the end. And what Trump wants to do with the economy in America and really the globe is bring in more jobs and bring manufacturing back into the USA and bring more sovereignty to the USA, which is exactly what we want here in the UK. But obviously we're watching Donald Trump as the leader of the entire world, essentially, is what that role is. And Trump has expressed, definitively, his intentions to dismantle the financial regulations and policies that empower large asset management firms. I'll say that again and I'll fill in the blank. Trump has expressed intentions to dismantle financial regulations and policies that empower BlackRock. Right? He's expressed this. And as Trump gets into more power, and it's even more and more likely that he wins this thing, certainly after this, BlackRock are in danger here. BlackRock have something to lose in this battle. So he aims to implement, and I'm talking about Trump here, and so Trump aims to implement these policies that will directly impact Wall Street. And this could potentially decentralize economic power. Okay, so I'm bringing this back in a little bit. I'll continue this thread on. But isn't the whole reason that blockchain and cryptocurrency exists in the first place is to decentralize economic power? And if Trump is supporting that, and he's actually going to put policies in place to allow the decentralization of economic power, and those policies and regulations directly impact BlackRock, do you think there might be some connection here to have BlackRock somehow influence the result of this election? And depending on how much power Trump has or how much likelihood there is of these things happening, do you not agree that the severity of the method that they would try to stop this would increase? The severity would grow, like they would try to be more severe as time goes on. And so these policies that Trump's kind of wanting to implement here will lead to tighter regulations on international investments. This is what BlackRock are involved in. And even tighter regulations on financial practices by these big asset management funds, right? So they're going to be restricted versus the complete ability that they have to do basically anything in the world, include advise governments. And this is obviously ultimately going to reduce what BlackRock can do and their maneuverability around the world. This is where it gets speculative. I needed to get all that to you as a pretext to give you context for what's about to come here. And again, this is speculative. I don't want to go further than that because I don't want to die. So this is where we start looking at, you've already drawn the connection. BlackRock not wanting Trump to come into power for all the reasons I've just said. Trump is a direct threat to its financial and political power. So they need to prevent him from implementing these policies, to putting these regulations in place, because they will, if those regulations are put into place, it will undermine their control. I think it's fully within reason to suggest that BlackRock would try to take drastic measurements to stop this from happening. Now, if this speculation were in fact true, that is beyond what I ever thought BlackRock would do to take drastic measures. Typically, I would think this is like, talking to some government officials and saying, hey, we can make sure you have all these assets and stuff if you just say what we need you to say. Like, that's as far as I would imagine it would have gone. But there's some things that are quite interesting here. And this is where Jesse on Fire kind of opened my mind here. Well, the shooter, the guy who somehow miraculously 150 yards away from the president or the president-to-be managed to get up onto a rooftop, have civilians saying, hey, there's a man up there with a gun, like let's not have that. And somehow the Secret Service don't see it, or at least they're told not to take the shot until he gets a shot off, which is mind-blowing. That same guy that crawled up there and took the shot that took Donald Trump's ear, it hasn't taken his ear off, but that hit him in the ear, that scraped his face and hit him in the ear. That kid was on a BlackRock commercial. Of all of the companies in the entire world, of all the people in the entire world, that kid that tried to assassinate Donald Trump was in a BlackRock commercial. Now, I will accept there is a possibility that this is completely coincidental. It's possible. I can't deny that it's possible that it's just unlucky that BlackRock kind of hired this kid as an unpaid extra to be in this commercial. It's possible. But how crazy is that? Of all the people in the world and of all the companies in the world, that kid who has been defined by peers at school, not hand-selected people who've been told what to say, said that he was a loner, he was a lone shooter, ridding all of the blame from any other entity and just saying this guy acted alone. He did that on his own.
Fine. Did you ever have any interactions with Thomas, any shared classes in high school?
No, I didn't have any classes with him. My only interactions with him were just seeing him in school. I mean, he was bullied, sat alone at lunch.
But was also hired by the exact company that faces the exact repercussions, the diminishing of power, the loss of control over the world's finances and politics, that same company were going to be greatly affected by Donald Trump, who that guy was trying to shoot, who was in the commercial. Something happened like this in the UK very recently. We went under a UK election, a general election. This is to decide who actually leads the country. And Nigel Farage, who's very Trump-esque, I think everyone who likes Trump here in the UK basically voted for this guy, Nigel Farage. When Nigel Farage goes into these unbiased locations to be interviewed by the BBC or any other company, any broadcast television, they set him up every time. These aren't unbiased civilians asking questions. These are Channel 4 people. These are journalists, biased journalists asking these questions to try and bring that soundbite in. But everyone else in the entire lead up and the lineup to be elected, they all get unbiased people. They get people genuinely from the public to ask questions. But for Nigel Farage, because of the threat, things are different for him, right? They tried to stitch him up. They tried to put him on the spot. They tried to make him crack, say something wrong. And that's on a small scale compared to what's happened to Trump here. It doesn't seem unreasonable for me to imagine the concept that because BlackRock fear Donald Trump so much because they lose their political and economic control over the world, or at least that gets tightened, that they might try to have a hand in this. And I don't think it's just BlackRock, right? I think it's the whole narrative over everything about Donald Trump, that the whole the leftists have pushed out there, putting Donald Trump as Hitler on the front of a magazine, basically comparing him to Hitler. The fact that Joe Biden said it's time we put a bullseye on Donald Trump. Like, they did this. They did this. Who knows where that goes up, like where that narrative starts. Like, it's not too far-fetched to think that BlackRock are in control of governments, and BlackRock, knowing what's coming if Trump gets in, says, let's try to paint, at the very least, let's try to paint Donald Trump as someone who's going to make terrible things happen. Let's try to paint him in a way where he is violently the opposition, so much so that he's possibly even like Hitler. So maybe BlackRock, even if BlackRock didn't groom this kid, right? They didn't groom the shooter because there was some guy on set and he was like, oh, this kid is pretty strange. He's a bit of a loner. Maybe this might be the guy. Maybe this is the guy that we can plant some seeds into. But it's everything as well. It's the narrative, it's the violent talk or the rhetoric about Donald Trump. It's where that source is. Like, where is the source of that information? It doesn't take me long to kind of realize that, go up the power hierarchy, go above the government. If we've got a company, BlackRock, advising governments on financial policies, and the financial policies that they're talking about are directly impacted in a negative way by the man who's about to become president, you potentially would start a rumor, even if it was just as innocent as a rumor. It's never as innocent as a rumor. There's always intention at the end of that rumor. And I think their intention was for someone to take a shot. It just so happens that the kid who took the shot also has ties, even if it's a loose tie, to BlackRock. And also how unconvincing the interview was from his schoolmate, like how acted it felt. The words that he was given to say, it felt like he was just saying words he was given. Yeah, this guy just wore hunting gear all the time and he would like guns, and he was a loner. He just ate lunch on his own. He was made fun of. He was bullied. Probably mental health issues type thing. I've embellished a bit there, but you get the point. So following this kind of feed down from the top from BlackRock, I'm suggesting in this conspiracy, in this speculation, that even if it was that BlackRock could have started some sort of narrative to be brought down into the global media to create this violent narrative, to allow for a situation where that violent talking, the discussions about Donald Trump could be manifested into this individual who's been very malleable, quite an outcast kind of guy, loves guns, thinks he can make the shot, and can also the ties can be completely cut off to him. I think there was just a perfect scenario here. I have realized over time, as conspiracies, I see them constantly becoming true, like being realized as true. I'm more and more convinced that entities don't organize specific events to happen. They don't organize black swan events to happen in the financial markets. They don't organize these things. They set the system up to fall in a predictable way. Let me tell you what that is. You know, when people are chopping down a tree, they chop it in a specific way so that when they fell the tree fells in the right direction. So if you imagine all of this narrative, all of these discussions about Donald Trump, this is chipping away at the tree, chipping away. And it could be that a bird flies onto the tree and it's just enough weight to fell that tree. I think that's how they operate at the elite level. They understand human behavior and patterns and human nature, and they just have to set the stage, and someone will do something because people are predictable. And if you can control that even further by potentially even grooming a kid to potentially take that action, then perhaps so be it. And I don't think it's just, I don't think it would just be him. Why would you rest all of your efforts or all of your grooming efforts on this one kid? I'm sure there's tons of people out there who have ties to BlackRock in this way, who are basically being helped by BlackRock in some way, but in such a direct way that they don't even realize it's happening. And that brings me to something else. Isn't that just the general public? Aren't they just preparing the general public, the asleep public, to take action on something like this? Isn't everything that they've suggested to governments financially, the situations they've put us in, the agendas they tell us about, the no carbon emissions, the don't eat meat, all of these agendas are pushed down the line so that the general public are essentially brainwashed. And so when they feed these rumors or these ideas down that channel, some of those humans who are brainwashed will inevitably take action on the thing that they believe is true. So that grooming isn't happening with individuals necessarily, although potentially. The grooming is happening on a global scale. Like, they're grooming you. They're grooming everyone. How do they do that? Well, if you believe they have massive control over the financial markets and they have massive control over politics, do you not believe they have massive control over media? We all saw it with COVID, like the 100 news outlets saying the exact same script. I've seen it in the UK with Nigel Farage in the process of the general election, where every single interviewer asked the exact same questions with the exact same tinge of accusing him of being racist. It was undeniable. There's coordination to take these people down. I'm just trying to figure out who is at the top. It would make sense for an entity like BlackRock to be at the top. And I don't think they coordinated the shooting of Trump. Maybe they did. It seems awfully suspicious that they could let that kid up onto the roof. Like, there's 3 or 4 roofs in that whole area. And Donald Trump, as Jesse on Fire said, he's seen Donald Trump's brigade, I guess, like his security piece. There's like 20 cars of people, typically with Donald Trump. You could have 2 cars of people and they could cover that roof. What happened there? What the heck happened there? So, just to summarize, this, I think, as it's slowly being discovered, I think all of this is going to slowly and hopefully drastically wake up the public to realize that not everything that they see online is true, or even on the news, the trusted news. I've been long gone from watching the news because I've realized ages ago that this was nothing that they say is true. Everything's got an agenda behind it. If you want to truly think for yourself, you watch people like Jesse on Fire, go over to Rumble and watch people there. I like to think that I try to speak like that as well, but I'm not bigging myself up here because I don't talk about politics that much, although I'm very interested, certainly in this situation. But at some point, things need to break. I think things will break when Donald Trump is in power. I think things will become significantly more transparent. I think there'll be more public trust when he's in. The guy literally survived a gunshot and stood up and wanted to continue doing his speech. You know what Joe Biden would have done? He would have been on the floor crying. Actually, no, he would have forgotten about it already. It would have happened. You go, wait, what happened? You know, this is we're in an interesting situation right now where Donald Trump's position has strengthened beyond whatever I thought it could ever do. The prospect of BlackRock now being at the whim of Donald Trump instead of the other way around is highly likely. Now, all I can hope is that violent action isn't taken to further this, like to try again. But people are uncontrollable, and entities that control the world understand that people act randomly sometimes. So if they feed the narrative just enough, create just enough polarization, just enough anger, just enough resentment, somebody will do something that is uncontrollable, random. But it's not random when it's predictable. And I think they understand that. So I'm really interested to know what you think about all of this. What do you think? And I want to know in the comments, what do you think about how this shooter was connected to BlackRock and how BlackRock are basically above governments and potentially could be in that position to start these narratives, to start this kind of hate speech, violent rhetoric towards Donald Trump, and understanding that people act erratically and randomly, but at scale that's predictable. What do you think about that whole concept? Like I said, it's very speculative, and I'm not suggesting that this is the case. I'm just making you aware of this connection between the shooter and BlackRock. And of course, on this channel, we've talked about BlackRock extensively, solely within the global financial system context. But naturally, this has been brought out to seeing their influence potentially in politics and in the way the world goes round, which we've always had suspicions of. Would love to know what you're thinking about this. I know this has gone on for a little bit long, but if you are new here, please subscribe. On this channel, I talk about cryptocurrency and blockchain and how this is the way of the new financial system. I talk a lot about a digital asset called XRP. So make sure you watch a lot of the videos if you want to be brought up to speed on that. But if not, potentially there could be more content like this if you're interested. But certainly the whole tinge of this channel has always been on what are these bigger powers doing to shape what our financial system looks like? And could there be digital assets or cryptocurrencies that can allow us to navigate out of this, to have sovereignty of self, to have independence financially and in every other way? So if that's of interest to you, subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next one.